Welcome back to Styles Garage. Welcome back, ladies. In this video I have a 2002 Ford Focus SVT. We're doing a timing belt change on this. We're also changing the water pump and a bunch of pulleys and tensioners on this while we're at it. This is a 2.0 SVT engine. So this procedure is exactly the same for all SVT engine Ford Focuses, or Foci, whatever you want to call it. And also similar to any 2.0 engine that comes in these. So let's begin. First thing we're going to do is disconnect the negative side of the battery. You do this because you don't want this to accidentally crank the engine by accident while you're doing this and screw something up. Now the coolant reservoir tank is a 10mm bolt. It was also 10mm on the battery, so take this off. Pop this off, and there's a little clip in the back. Pop that out, and it should come right out. Just like that. And move this to the side. Now you grab the power steering reservoir. It slides in over here in these two brackets. You just push it up, and it comes right out. And put this to the side also. Okay, now we're going to put a block of wood underneath the engine oil pan to hold the engine up because we're going to take the motor mount off. Put a little bit of tension there, and we're good. Okay, now we're going to mark with a Sharpie the position of this mount here. And same thing on the bottom. Now take the motor side nuts off, these 11/16. Sometimes the nut comes out off it. In this case, the whole thing came out. This is a stud, but you can just take it off like this. Now take these three bolts off that mount the motor mount to the frame. These are 15mm. Okay, now this water mount's cocked a little bit. So what you do is you raise the engine up until this loosens. We'll go ahead and do that now. And that's it. Take the passenger side wheel off. It's a 3/4 inch lug nuts. And pop her off. I'm going to take this plastic wheel well out just to make it a little easier. Pop this one out, like so. Same thing here. Now I'm going to grab this and move it out of the way. Just pop it right there. There's a little plastic shield here. It's a 10mm bolt that holds it in. Pop that off. Now to loosen the tensioner, you put a 15mm wrench right in the middle of that tensioner pulley, and that is frozen. That's not coming off. So I guess what we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen this and just take the belt off. I'll show you on the bench. We have a new tensioner, thank God. So we're gonna go ahead and just loosen that nut in the middle, and I'll show you on the bench what a new one looks like and what it should do. Alright, so we also lowered the engine a little bit just to get a little more clearance so this bolt could come out. And that pulley should come out and it should free up the belt. There you go. Take the belt off. So this is what a good one looks like. And as you can see, it moves back and forth. That one didn't, that was seized. Let me take everything on top here off. These are 8mm bolts holding this in place. Okay, now for the cam timing controller, you push this up and it pops right out. Okay, now we're going to take the spark plugs out, starting by the ignition wires because it's easier to turn the motor. You could turn this a little bit first just to break the seal and pop that out. Wiggle and jiggle, and it pops it out. These are 5/8 spark plugs. Alright, there are 10 bolts that hold this valve cover in place. So go ahead and pop those off. And 10. Take this hose off here. And now this whole thing can come right off. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the motor clockwise, the crankshaft pulley, because that's the way the motor turns. You don't want to turn it the other way around, counterclockwise. We stuck a screwdriver inside the number 1 cylinder, and we're going to find top dead center. As this goes up, and as the exhaust valve is closed, and the intake valve is closing, it's coming off the lobe, and the back slots over here on the cams are lining up. That means you know you're at top dead center. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the motor from underneath. That's an 18mm bolt over there. So remember, clockwise. Okay, so that's going down, the piston. Okay, now the piston's going up, and the valves are both closed, the intake and the exhaust. So over here on the other side of the cams, these notches are lining up, and this is the tool you put in to hold them in place at top dead center. So once we're really close here, I'm going to stop and try to put them in. Alright, so we're at top dead center now, and as you can see back here, this slides in, so we're good. Now the mount for the motor mount on the engine block, those are 13mm bolts. Take those off. That's a 13mm bolt on this idler pulley. Take that off. Now this idler pulley is bad. I'll show you why in a second when I take it off. Alright, now we're jacking up the engine a little bit to take this out and pushing this over with the pry bar a little bit more. It's almost out. I don't know if you can hear that. This is wobbling and it's making noise. Bearing's shot, so we have a new one we're going to put in also. There's a 13mm bolt right there. Take that off. Okay, now I'm going to leave this loose and we're going to take the water pump pulley off. There's different ways of doing this. You can put a strap wrench here to take this water pump pulley off, hold it, and then crack these loose. Or you could do it while there's a belt on here, the Serpentine belt, have tension. So I'm just going to put a screwdriver here and crack this loose between the bolts. That's one. Now the other one. And this could come out when you drop the engine all the way down like that. There's a T50 Torx right there. Alright, what I'm doing out here is I'm holding one hand behind the the socket, and the other one I'm just turning it. So it looks like it came out the bolt right there, and now this whole thing comes right off. So this is how everything goes. There's a smaller bolt that goes here, the larger bolt goes here, the Torx T50 here, and there's a spacer that goes here. There's a spacer that goes right here, and then this goes on top of that. This idler pulley goes like that, and you tighten that down. So that's how everything goes in there. I put a pan underneath. Now we're going to change this water pump. So these are 5/16 bolts on here. And that's the fourth and final bolt on here from underneath. Alright, now take a pry bar and yank that bitch off. And now just slowly take that off. Yeah, baby. Okay, now we're going to take this off. It's an 18mm bolt on the crankshaft pulley. Spray some of this butter sauce in here just to make removal a little bit easier in the keyway too. And after the butter sauce, you tap it very slightly and you attempt removal like that. Now lower timing cover. These are two bolts here, two 5/16 bolts. Take those off. And now the other side. This whole thing comes right out. Now to take this seized belt tensioner off. These are two 10mm nuts right here. Oh yeah. She's on there tight. And now the other bolt. Time us to go to the gym more. Woo! These bolts are a mile long, so be ready. Now what I'm going to actually clean this because you can't tell where the divots are for the timing marks. So I'm going to wire wheel this bitch. Alright, so you can see two divots here, one here and one here. This is the mark that you want to line up with the block. So let me show you where that is. Okay, now you see this casting on this block over here? That's where you want to line the second divot over here. So put this on all the way back on. Make sure you align the keyway to the key. And as you can see, this lines up with this. So we did put this on top dead center before. I showed you how to do it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put this back on here. And I'm going to take the plug out of the block for the crank stop that we're going to put in. Yep. That's the plug right there. That's a 13mm. It looks like a stud with a nut on it. So put a deep socket on there and take that bitch off. Comes off very easily. Threads right out. This is the tool you need to stop the crank from turning. So now I'm going to put this in and slip it in the hole. if you can find it. Sometimes you need some guidance. Brianna, I found it, right?
Oh,
right
yeah,
hole?
that's in the spot.
That's the right hole, right, Brianna?
Oh, yeah.
Alright, good. Okay, now we take this tool out and see if the crank stops with that crank stop. And it does. It doesn't go anymore. So, we're good. Now we're gonna back up to the camshafts up here. And one, it fits. And the other one is slightly off, which is acceptable. What you do, you take a 1-inch wrench, you put it right here. There's metal here to grab that. So we're gonna go very, very slightly, and it went right in. That wasn't even a degree, so that's within acceptable range. While you do this job, I would change the idler and the tensioner while you're doing this. So I'm gonna go ahead and this is a 15mm bolt in the middle. Go ahead and pop that loose. That's a 10mm bolt in the middle of this tensioner pulley. Take that off. Okay, that's 6mm in there. Now that you have this loose, you go about 4 revolutions on that. You can actually go down with this 6mm Allen I'm putting in there. I went all the way with it around. You have tons of slack here. And now, take this little bolt off. This whole thing comes right out. Okay, now this is a 15mm. And that also comes right off. Now before we take the timing belt off, I'm going to zip this out. I would use a gun here, an impact gun, because it's not going to turn the crankshaft. So pop it off and take the belt off. And she's off! She's off! So these are the parts we're putting in. These are from Motorcraft. This is the tensioner, the timing belt tensioner, the idler, and that's the belt. Okay, we got a Ford Motorcraft water pump. That's the part number. We're gonna put that in now. Make sure you put this O-ring on here, the seal, and now we could put it in just like this. Gonna go from underneath. I'm going to crisscross pattern here to tighten this down. And you're good. Put the new idler here. This can go to 17 foot-pounds. Okay, we just have the idler pulley there. We don't have the tensioner on yet. Now there's 2 different ways of doing this. You could loosen these over here, these cam gears, and put the belt on, put the tensioner on where it's supposed to be, and then tighten these down. Or what we're gonna do, we're gonna put the belt on in the crank gear, have tension on this side, tension all the way up. Then I'm gonna zip tie this here, and we're gonna be good on this side. We're not gonna loosen these. And over here, just put the tensioner and then adjust to where it's at, and we should be fine. Now, if you first start the car up and you get a check engine light, that means you're off about probably more than 33 degrees here, and you have to check the code. If it's over advanced, you gotta retard a little bit, and if it's the other way, you gotta do it the other way. So, but if you drive around, say 15 minutes later, you get a code, then you're off very slightly. So, then you have to adjust this, loosen this, and adjust it. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to do this job without loosening these cam gears. Alright, we're going to put the top ones on first, where they're supposed to be. It's nice and tight here. Then put this over the idler. pull it down over the cam gear. And you have to move the the crank gear over a little bit just to get that one tooth on there. And then you go against the stop with the crank gear. And you're good there. Now I'm going to put a zip tie on this side to hold this side. Alright, now you're going to put a tensioner pulley. Over here there's a slot, and there's a slot over there. Make sure it goes in there when you put it on, like that. And now put this on. And now we adjust the tension on this. Now we have somebody still holding the belt underneath. Alright, now that the tab is in there, position that to the 4 o'clock position. Okay, now you turn this until that lines up with the arrow with the slot. Turn it counterclockwise. Right there. Now hold that in place and tighten that pulley down. And torque that down to 18 foot-pounds, making sure that doesn't move. And you're good. And cut this off. Okay, so I took the crank stop out of the block. I took the cam tool out from behind the cams. I put the balancer back on. I put a white mark here with some white out. And I'm gonna go 4 revolutions around, make sure nothing's hitting, no valve is hitting, no piston. And then I'm gonna go to top dead center again and put the crank stop in, go butt up against the crank stop and see if the tool goes behind the cams, and we'll be fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Alright, so we're close to top dead center again. Now I'm gonna we went about 4 revolutions around and nothing's hitting. If you feel a resistance, that means something's wrong. You might be hitting a valve with your piston because this is an interference motor. And don't keep on going because you're gonna bend something. Okay, we'll put the crank stop in now, and it just hit the crank stop. All right, now if this goes in, that means your dead on bowl is accurate. Now it's a slight hair off there. I could probably push it in, but that's not even a degree off. It's probably half a degree. So that's acceptable. If you go very slightly, turn it very slightly, it goes right in. So that means your dead on bowl is accurate, baby. I'm gonna take this out and also take out the crank stop. Put the butt plug back in and tighten her down. And you're good. Took the balancer off, put the lower timing cover on. I set my impact gun to 85 foot-pounds. And that's good. Okay, now putting everything back is reversal of removal. So this goes down here. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put all these bolts back on. And all 4 bolts are tightened down. All right, so we put everything back on. These 10 bolts to go for the valve covers. The first stage you do 2 Newton meters, then 7 Newton meters, the second stage. You just go from in and go out. So that's what I'm doing now. And they're all done. Alright, we're done. Put everything back together. Battery's hooked up. Don't forget when you do this job, great idea to change this valve cover gasket. Good idea to change the water pump, the idler pulley for the serpentine belt, the tensioner pulley for the serpentine belt, check your motor mount when you do this job. You might have to get that too. Also the idler on the timing belt and the tension on the timing belt. So now we're going to go ahead and start it up. We also put some antifreeze in here. We're going to monitor that when the thermostat opens. We'll probably suck it in. We'll throw some more in there. So we're going to go ahead and start it up now. And there's no check engine light, so we're not off a lot, but we're also going to drive around 15 minutes to see if there's a check engine light. If there's, like I said, if there's a check engine light right when you turn it on, then you're off a lot, and you have to adjust that intake cam. And if you drive around for 15 minutes and it goes on, then you have to adjust it very slightly. So you should be good. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, like me, share me. Also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Cloudy1969. See ya!